Hello and welcome to the ID Talk podcast. My name is Peter Counter and I am the editor-in-chief of FindBiometrics, which is reporting live from ISC West in Las Vegas. On day one of the world's premier security industry conference, FindBiometrics' Director of Digital Media and Events, Doug O'Gorden, caught up with Jake Parker, Senior Director of Government Relations for the Security Industry Association. Their conversation centers around the increasing role that biometrics are playing in the security industry and the impact new facial recognition laws are currently having. Parker and O'Gorden discuss possible next steps for the industry under this current legislative pressure, and then look to the bright future of biometrics in access, authentication, and identity management. It's a great discussion at the intersection of identity and security. So without further ado, let's kick off our ISC West coverage with Doug O'Gorden in conversation with SIA's Jake Parker, recorded live in Las Vegas.
Hi, FindBiometrics listeners, Doug O'Gorden here. I'm sitting down with Jake Parker. It's day one of the ISC West show. And Jake is Head of Government Affairs. Is that your title for?
Senior Director of Government Relations.
Senior Director Government Relations. Sorry about that. Jake and I have been talking on the phone about, things going on in the industry, and I'm so glad to sit down with you. What kind of impact will new facial recognition laws have on the security industry, do you think?
So I think, first of all, there is a lot of concern in the industry about facial recognition legislation, both the proposed bans of the technology, but also some pretty restrictive regulations. At the same time, I think there's a misperception that is very widespread. It really isn't at the moment. And legislating on facial recognition is something relatively new. Technology itself, not so new, but it's been really become mainstream in a lot of different applications in the last couple of years.
And that's due to COVID or COVID happening maybe?
Well, it's really been the advent of using machine learning and neural network techniques over about 5 years ago. But really, we're seeing some states become interested in legislating on facial recognition. It's something SIA has been following really closely. And we are actually seeing a change in the conversation around this. As the benefits of technology become more known and experienced by people, that we are seeing less of a desire among policymakers to flat out ban the technology, which was definitely something that folks were concerned about, a year or two ago. So, in fact, the most recent thing that's happened on this is Virginia was the only major state to impose a ban on facial recognition, and it's just only relevant to law enforcement, right? So a ban on law enforcement use last year. And legislators there became pretty concerned after that went into effect. It passed really quickly during their pandemic short session that they had. And it became obvious that there was going to be a public safety impact to that. And so some legislators became concerned and worked with the law enforcement community and others to try to get some workable rules in place instead of a ban. So they actually that just cleared the legislature earlier this month and is headed to the governor for signature. So in this case, they're overturning their ban and replacing it with rules.
That's great. That's good to hear. What does the industry need to do to address people's privacy concerns and ensure that these new technologies are used in an ethical and constructive manner?
So I think there is a real need for the technology providers themselves to put forward the policy templates and guidance to their end users as far as how to use the technology responsibly in a way that is protective of privacy, but also how to communicate that to customers or whoever the stakeholders are. I think once it's a challenge because it's a complicated issue to explain, complicated
state
technology.
By state, right?
But we found that more people know about the technology and how it works, and what's really important is communicating the benefits. That conversation becomes much easier.
Like New Orleans just rescinded their facial, they
Well,
they were
considering
catching. It was actually working, so they decided to overturn what they had passed, right?
Well, they're considering it. So
that has
the
not.
End of April. The city council scheduled to.
I like talking to you because I hear the news, but I don't know if it actually went through or not yet. So you're the one who's the eye in the sky.
It's on the agenda. The mayor and the police department actually requested that there be a change to their ordinance was passed last year to allow facial recognition use for law enforcement purposes.
Yeah. We could keep going on that one question, but I have one more question here that's...
I wanted to say something else about this.
Go ahead.
As privacy concerns. So, there is the conversation around privacy is really occurring within a broader context, and that is data privacy laws. So there definitely is a need to protect biometric data like other personal data. And, my understanding from, talking to our members, folks in the industry, we all would like to see biometric data protected, but within that context of a broader data privacy framework, whether it be federal framework or state, comprehensive data privacy legislation at the state level. I think that's the appropriate place.
One database, pulling from one database.
No. The as far as how like businesses and are able to
use the technology.
Use the technology information.
I was thinking more about where's the data secured. That's another question we could ask, but no one has the answer to that one. Where do you think the data should be stored? The biometric.
Well, if we're talking about facial recognition, it really is going to vary by use cases. So the way that I look at this, you've really got three. You commonly hear about two primary types of applications, but there's really three. So one is verification. Identity verification is typically a one-to-one comparison, but it could be a one-to-many comparison to verify someone as who they say they are, to access something, typically, even your phone, but physical access, network access, building access, things like that. Account access, remote online account access. So identity proofing is definitely probably the most, the fastest growing use case for facial recognition. Definitely hit a bit of a speed bump with the IRS decision not to use that with the program that they were using, which is really unfortunate because I think that could have been rolled out a little bit better and it maybe avoided some of those issues. But they're very active lobby against technology that wants to ban it. And they seized upon that immediately and were able to get some traction with some folks in Congress who sent letters of concern and basically made that change happen. But so there's verification, but then there's there's identification. So there's a lot of different one-to-many type searches or queries. You see that in like travel applications, but also real-time screening, either for security purposes or for VIP recognition, all kinds of commercial applications beyond security. And there's a lot to that to unpack. But really, the third use, and I consider it to be separate from the others, is the law enforcement investigations use case, because they're not law enforcement in the U.S. The way it works, they're not really using that for verification or identification. What they're doing is whatever data they have access to search, they're bringing up the top scoring potential match candidates for a probe image. And it's usually set where maybe it's over a certain score, you get a set number of candidates over a certain score or something like that, but you're not, the software is not making any kind of decision as far as this is the person. So it's really a different way of using the technology than the others. It's very difficult to articulate to folks.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the misunderstandings about this in law enforcement come because of those misunderstandings.
Sure. With identity playing such an important role in the digital transformation and converged access control, what role do you see biometrics playing in the larger security industry over the next few years? How are biometrics going to be used?
I think they're going to be used much more than they are now, and I think, especially with some of the modalities that don't require, they allow a touchless interface. There's facial recognition. There's also touchless fingerprint technology that can be used for access control and other applications. I think that's really going to. I think the use is going to grow, especially you've got multi-factor authentication that needs to happen now with all the cyber threats we face. So
yeah. Well, just looking at the show floor, I'm excited to get on it because I think that's your image of your show this year is a woman with a face map on with her phone, which is really interesting. There's tons of access control opportunities with biometrics to ID, authenticate, frictionless mobile opportunities out there. What's the best way for my listeners to, find out more about SIA, find out maybe, find out what the government affairs people are doing to help?
Well, certainly something we're doing is we're going to be making a more concerted effort to put out updates and analysis of policy as it emerges on biometrics, on the SIA website. One example is we recently broke down all the details of the Virginia legislation that I just mentioned. So we're going to do a more concerted effort to do that.
Great.
And also, SIA members, we've got a lot of interest from those that are producing biometrics to get involved in our various working groups that we have that are our government relations committee that's watching all these developments and weighing in.
So with cyber. Thinking of cyber, what's the best way to get a hold of you? Like, is there a website they can go to? Where can my listeners go and get more info?
Sure, my contact info is on our website under staff directory. So
okay,
feel free to reach out.
And the website is
securityindustry.org.
Securityindustry.org. All right. Well, Jake, thanks for your time. Have a great show.
And that concludes our interview with Jake Parker, Senior Director of Government Relations for SIA, the Security Industry Association. To learn more about the topics discussed in this episode, visit securityindustry.org. And for more identity and biometrics industry coverage straight from ISC West, stay posted to FindBiometrics.com. I want to thank Jake for joining us on this episode, and thank you to Doug OGorden for conducting the interview. Our podcast theme music is by Logomrad. I have been your host, Peter Counter. Thank you for listening to the ID Talk podcast.